Before we begin, thank you very much to a familiar name, JM Autobot, for joining the Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/TJOmega. You guys know I say it every time, I mean it every time. You're the reason I can continue. And that Patreon helps me out a lot. So thank you everyone who's willing to pitch in, even if it's just a little bit. You're keeping it going, and I appreciate all of you. Let's talk. What is it about turning the main hero into a villain that we like so much? Whether, we've seen, we saw Venom, which is essentially the evil version of Spider-Man. We've seen evil versions of Superman named Ultraman. Not that Ultraman, different Ultraman. But for whatever reason, it's just interesting to see the most pure hero become the darkest of villain. And Optimus Prime is no different, and we've done it a lot. So let's go over and we'll go through most everyone. I'm going to say everyone, but obviously there's a lot of iterations of each and every version of some of these. And they can't cover all of them, but they're all relatively in the same ballpark. If I've skipped them, it's because we're talking about someone who's basically the same. Also, before anyone calls me on it, because I know someone will, there is no reverse convoy in this list because that's technically a costume of Megatron. We also will not be talking about any mind-controlled Optimus Primes who served evil, being the one from The Last Knight, or the one from Transformers Prime. We're going to be sticking to the ones who are legitimate villains, and that starts with the one you see in front of you. But can you tell which one it is? This is from a Prime problem where the Decepticons decided, let's make a clone of Optimus Prime, that even Teletran 1 could not spot the difference between the two. If they could create clones, even if they are piloting them, if they are creating clones of Optimus Prime that are so convincing even Teletran 1 can't tell them apart, and they still have all the same functionality of Optimus Prime, why not make an army? Why not just make an army? Why not double your forces here? Whatever. Could have been a much bigger plan. But point being, the very first time we got it was in the original G1 cartoon. Though that one was not so much its own independent thing, it's a puppet, and its intentions were to trick the Autobots into a trap rather than be a villain. But it was still the first taste we ever got of it. We would get it again later on when we got to the zombie Optimus Prime in season 3, where once again we have a possessed Optimus. But no, that's more zombie thing. The ones you want to hear about, the ones you know when you hear evil Optimus Prime, is guys like this. This is Scourge from RID. And now, if you've been around Transformers long enough, obviously you know Scourge. RID, a Autobot protoform, is scanned in by Megatron in order to turn him into a Decepticon villain. Optimus Prime gets in the way trying to save a human, and both a tanker truck and Optimus are scanned, and thus we have this weird blend. The show tried to do a little bit of teasing that the goodness in Optimus is still alive in there somewhere, but it never came to fruition. He's always just been very cunning and evil, and of course out to become the leader of everything, because that's what villains like this tend to be. But this is the one where we primarily think of evil Optimus as starting, whether you call him Scourge or Black Convoy over in Japan. Now, the strange thing is, even though he is the first, we rarely see this iteration because so many Optimus Primes since then aren't based on the laser Optimus Prime figure that this one is. So it takes a while for us to really get a proper Scourge again. I would argue the Scourge we just got is not a proper Scourge, but that's another argument for another day that I've already made. The one we see most often is this iteration of Black Convoy, or Nemesis Prime is the name that we popularly know them by now. It's the standard black repaint of Optimus Prime representing the Decepticons, and this one is, there's so many of them. Because there's so many G1 Primes, that's just the easiest one to repaint black. We've seen a lot of these over the years, from the original G1 toy all the way to modern ones. There's so many, I can't cover all of them, but they all basically come from one of two places. They're either a future incarnation of Optimus who has been corrupted, usually by Unicron, or it is the dark side of Optimus Prime's psyche and mind, given manifestation, becoming real. I never like that origin. The idea that Optimus Prime has this inherent evil side to him that he just is that he just lacks control of, or that can come to life. I don't like the idea that someone who's supposed to be like the purest of heroes has this evil dark side to him that is so powerful it can come through like this. It is supposed to be like a negative, equal and opposite reaction thing. I just don't like how it presents itself like this. There's other ways of doing that, and we'll talk about those too. But this is, by default, the one that we see the most. So most iterations of Nemesis Prime you see kind of comes from this source. But when we first think about Nemesis Prime, the first one of those was in Armada. This was just a disguise by Sideways in order to kind of throw the Autobots off during a fight with them. It's a weird way of going about it, but okay, fine. It comes across as an excuse to sell a black Optimus Prime repaint. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. It's a way of selling. It's a way of putting it in the show so the toy will sell better. But not they need to. Like, it was a really popular figure. But again, this is kind of where a lot of Nemesis Prime separated itself from Scourge, which I actually liked. You actually had a little bit of variance to this one. It relied more on blacks than grays. The lighter grays of Scourge are replaced by kind of like this yellowed bone kind of color, tan color. Like, I thought it was a really cool way of separating the two. And there's some iterations where that color scheme just works better. So I think this, as far as like Nemesis Primes, I think this is like one of the best examples. So this version, this is based on Big Convoy out of Beast Wars Neo, which meant the mammoth mode of this actually looked wicked. Like, it was like black fur, red eyes, blood on the tips of the tusks. This was brutal. This is also the first one to actually come with a Matrix of his own, as this is the first toy that had a removable Matrix accessory. The Dead Matrix, capable of killing Primus the same way the natural Matrix was capable of killing Unicron. This one is a herald of Unicron, by the way, cloned and forcefully tortured until he was subservient, but happy ending for this one. Eventually, he reached the Alternity Universe and actually managed to become purified, becoming a black convoy, but a heroic one. He served the Autobots again. So this one at least has a happy ending to him, and at least has that little bit of twist that the clone actually did become the good guy. Again, something they teased in RID, but never really pulled the trigger on. There's more versions. Like I said, Nemesis is the most common name we get for an evil Optimus Prime these days, so of course there's plenty of versions of him. We will touch on this version in Transformers Prime, not the Orion Pax version. His brain was wiped. He didn't know any better. This one was created by Mech, the villain, the human villains of Transformers Prime. And this was, again, another remote-controlled Optimus Prime, but I would argue this one went through a lot more effort. So aside from scanning Prime's body to create this likeness, it also incorporated a stolen T-Cog from Starscream. So for a while, Starscream had no ability to transform because this guy took his piece. So this one, I figured like this would be one of those trick the humans into thinking the Autobots are like villains, or tricking their federal their government contacts into not trusting them anymore. No, this is just straight up psychological warfare against the Autobots, which, that's a fair play too. It ended up crushing Silas, so backfired just a little bit. This one is interesting in that he's not the traditional Nemesis colors, not in the show anyway. Here he's just like super grungy, grunge look to him. Yeah, he kind of looks like he's made of scrap metal. The toy representing him did get the traditional black and metallic blue and all that. So, like, short-lived, but, like, would have been interesting. Would have been a different take to get that as a toy rather than, traditional colors. But I digress. These days, we have another option for a evil Optimus Prime, and that is, of course, the Shattered Glass Universe version. The original, created by FunPub, cruel, heartless, just merciless, everything Optimus Prime is not. This is a vicious killer. This is the one that printed "Till all are gone" on the side of his vehicle mode. It's a brutal, very evil take on Optimus, inverting his original personality completely to the point where he is just, a killer. Now, IDW did their own Shattered Glass, and they're still doing it. It's going to be the last issues of any Transformer fiction that IDW gives us before they completely lose the license at the end of the year. And it's... I'm going to have a whole video at some point detailing my grievances with the direction of Shattered Glass. So we'll get to that here in a bit. Little bit later. For now, I'll tell you that I'm not as happy with the current Shattered Glass Optimus as I am with this one. This one I think is a better, more well done in version of Optimus Prime. If only because they went all in on flipping everything completely rather than just a few elements and allegiances. So I think that really helped a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's the classic, right? It's the classic Star Trek mirror universe. So of course, it's a decent take. We'll look at it again later on in full detail. There is an animated version, however, thanks to the Almanacs. Though they pictured their version of Shattered Glass Optimus similar to the situation Megatron was in the cartoon. Though in that situation, it is a very deranged Isaac Sumdac who fully knows this is a destroyed character who he's now like putting under his foot, essentially. This is an Optimus who is, subservient to Isaac, forced into his control, and yeah, so it's a very different storyline. I really wish there was a little bit more than just like the snippets of animated Shattered Glass, because it sounds like the direction would have been very different. As different as animated was as a story for these traditional characters, Shattered Glass was going to follow the same suit, and I think that would have been cool. I think we missed out. Let's go to a completely different candidate, however. We now have Toxitron. The original Toxitron was meant to be a Universe 1.0 release, reusing the Laser Optimus Prime mold, so it would have been Scourge. So, two evil primes out of the same mold. Unfortunately, got canceled, but the Toxitron color scheme lived on thanks to FunPub releasing not one but two iterations. This is a funny little version. So, this is one that this is another evil prime that eventually went good, as becoming a wrecker in his universe. But he looks like Optimus Prime because he was experimented on. He's just a out of his luck Autobot who got experimented on until he was this. I'm not even sure he was an Autobot, to be honest. And then making him look like Optimus Prime was just kind of a sick joke. So unfortunately, as an evil Optimus, he only counts somewhat. He kind of came around. But there is one that is far closer to a Decepticon. So we're back to evil clones, but this one is a failed clone. So think Bizarro from Superman, and that's kind of how they depicted him in animated in the brief bit of BotCon fiction he got. So yeah, this is about this was kind of the first time we actually got some Toxitron in a storyline, thanks to Stunticon Job, and yeah, he was impersonating Optimus Prime for a little bit. As you would if you were a clone who looked exactly like him and you served a bad guy. That's just how it goes. But yeah, he's a fun depiction. You know, if you like Bizarro and Superman, yeah, kind of the same thing. We can start going a little bit more obscure here, just as we're kind of winding down the video. For starters, we have a Black Lio Convoy in existence too. A one episode character who kind of feels like he exists to sell a toy. So, not a lot to say about that one. We have Grand Scourge, a Matrix hunter for Unicron, a dimension hopper that hunts down and destroys matrices that can threaten Unicron. Again, it's a repaint. It's an excuse to use a repaint. There is actually like a small comic book fiction where he does actually fight Grand Convoy. But yeah, it was a model kit figure, by the way. So that's the only time this character exists, is just as a quick little build-it-yourself kind of thing. Now, you might think this is a Nemesis Prime. You might think this is a Scourge. No, 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 no. This is a Dark Side Optimus Prime. I've seen one of these in person. It's gorgeous. It is absolutely beautiful. I will never get to own one. Never. But the idea here, join me again. Hey, have you heard this one before? It's the evil psyche of Optimus Prime given form. I'm so sick of that. I don't like that origin. I do like the color scheme, though. I love how this thing looks. So I guess it's not all bad. There's a Unite version as well. I believe this was 2-packed with a Darkseid Megatron as well. And this is really just like, here's these two with even darker colors. Again, this is just Psyche of Optimus, etc., etc. Just an excuse to give a black repaint out there for that particular mold. Again, looks cool. Looks cool. We also have this blank slate of a Nemesis Primal. Brand new concept, just introduced into Transformers this year. Really missed concept, because I think everyone just kind of universally agreed they really should have done something different with the color scheme instead of just trying to be Nemesis. I really want them to give it another go next time they do a Primal toy. And yeah, I really think there's something there, because, like, you know, the evil clone thing, as we've seen, there's always something you can gain or glean from it, storyline-wise. So the fact that they kind of just threw this out there and kind of did a lackluster job is a little bit disappointing. But, you know, they got plenty of other opportunities. Let's go into some more obscure Japanese fiction. Meet Giltar. Now, you've probably seen him before. He shows up a lot. It's a creation by the Quintessons, who is a mix of Optimus Prime, as well, you know, using all the materials that made Optimus as durable and powerful as he was, also combined with Megatron, given weapons similar to his but far more powerful. So the idea was that his strength outstripped both of them combined. It took Rodimus and Galvatron teaming up to actually defeat this particular enemy, with a double rider kick, no less. And, of course, because we have to throw a weird twist in, because, you know, Japanese Transformer fiction, there is no soul in it. It is just a shell being piloted by the ghost of Starscream. So eventually what felled it was the fact that it had all of Starscream's failings, his lust for power, his inherent cowardice and ego, those kind of fun things. So yeah, just as it turns out, you can make the perfect destroying machine for Transformers, and Starscream will still figure out a way of screwing it up. And then you have one of the more obscure ones that I could find. This is from Battlestars, and this is False Convoy. Probably the most obscure that I could find for this list, because of course, Battlestars had so little fiction in the first place. I mean, I guess this is technically Return of Convoy. I guess that's technically where this comes from. So you have Dark Nova, who finds the body of Optimus Prime, duplicates it, and then programs it to be a Decepticon. It took Sky Gary and Grandus both to defeat him, but it is what led the Autobots to rediscover the corpse of Optimus Prime, and then we get Star Convoy, etc., etc. You know, and then we finish off the G1 fiction in kind of a sad way, really. It's just a TV magazine manga page, but you know, had to end somewhere, right? So that is for more or less every evil Optimus Prime there is. Like I said, there's some variations. There's tons of Nemesis Primes out there. There's tons of variations, but for the most part, this will cover just about everything you could out of your evil Optimus Primes. Now, this is one of those times where, like, I wish I could do the inversion video. I wish I could do all the good Megatrons, but that's like 3. We're still waiting on the other side of that coin for, like, a Nemesis Megatron. Maybe. We'll see. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. Hope you got a little bit of enjoyment out of this. You know, if I can talk for 20 minutes about evil Optimus Primes, you know, that is just a concept we have beaten to death in this fiction. But you know what? Every now and then there's a weird twist. So who knows? Maybe that's why Megatron's a good guy in Earthspark. Maybe we're going to get an evil Optimus instead. Who knows? But thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.